Hey there everybody, I just thought I would document this repair that I'm doing for a friend of mine on an Ampeg V4. There was a incident at a gig, a lot of smoke, and you can see right here one of the resistors decided to detonate right there. Made a huge mess on the inside. I've actually cleaned up quite a bit of it already. So now we're just trying to figure out why that happened and how to make it not happen again in the future. You'll notice that this particular location is connected to the grid here on that tube, which was this tube. So perhaps the tube went and that caused this, or perhaps this went and caused that. Right now I am awaiting some components to come in, including replacement resistors and a capacitor to replace this guy. It is supplying the B+ voltage here, so it's a little suspicious. So I'm just going to go ahead and replace it with one that I know works, and then do like a step-by-step fire up here without tubes, and check all the voltages and stuff. See what's happening here. Also, this circuit has been modified a little bit to allow for these larger tubes, the 6550s that were in there. So I'm gonna have to do a little more digging and research on what kind of voltages are supposed to be on this circuit board. The schematics that I have are saying 450, but you know, this capacitor is rated at 800 volts, so there might be a little something weird going on there. We might be seeing a lot larger plate voltage than was originally intended, and if that's the case, then maybe a lot more of these resistors need to be replaced with some larger ratings. All right, stay tuned. Okay, got a little update on the Ampeg V4. Where are we? So I replaced all the resistors on the top and bottom of this guy, and then did a very slow, careful power up, checking all the voltages, and things seem to be pretty good. It's a little noisy, even when the volume is turned all the way down. So not excited about that, but you know, we'll see if we can find a reason for that down the line. I got a new set of tubes for it, a new set of 6550s. I went with the Sovtex this time, just because it looked like we had a failure with the tubes that were in there before. So I went with a different brand, and Sovtex tends to be a pretty good, reliable brand. Anyway, so those are in, and I was just checking the bias and adjusting it and stuff, and someone's added a bias circuit in for these guys, which is super handy, but it was set very cold. The negative circuit going to the grid only allowed for about 16, or maybe it was 18 milliamps of plate dissipation. So that's not much for 6550s, and I know this guy's using this head as a base rig, so I know he wants tons of headroom, but still I think that's really too careful. So I took out the capacitor that was right there in the negative bias circuit and replaced it with a couple that I had on hand. It went from 100K down to 89K, and now I've got 20 on the low end, which is like you know, about 60% bias, and then on the top end, let me turn the knob, it goes up to almost 30, yeah, 30, which would be for the 6550s a little bit over 80%, be like 85% bias. So we've got a good sweep in here between 60% and 85% bias. So we should be able to find a good sound with these cool old resistors. So I'm going to get those soldered in place, and then I'm going to plug in and see what it sounds like at low and high bias rates. And I'll use a bass just to make sure it's sounding right. All right, little update on the Ampeg V4. We're getting close. I've got all of the exploded resistors replaced. So those 4, I replaced all of them just because they were pretty much out of spec. And then the other 4 on the other side have all been replaced, along with this 10-watt guy that exploded. When all of those failed, it blew up one of the tubes, and the other one that was on that same push-pull circuit was suspect, so I went ahead and just got a full new set of tubes here for the customer, just to make sure. And I did go through and replace some of these capacitors, kind of a lot actually, that were misbehaving. I saved all the old ones, of course, for the customer in case they ever want to put them back in, or just include the original parts with the sale of the amp. So one last little hurdle. The amplifier works and it is amping. Everything's clean and nice sounding because we did a service on it, but it's got a pretty distinct noise. It sounds kind of like frying bacon. And I'm going to turn on the amp here, get it warmed up so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. But basically, word on the street is plate resistors can make that sound, and it's only happening in the output section. So I tried pulling all of the input tubes and that sound persists. So that tells me it's probably in the output section. Plate resistors for the output tubes are here. These guys, and they look pretty suspicious. They're super old. I checked them and they're within their correct ratings, but what I'm hearing from folks on the internet is that sometimes the actual material that these are made out of fails, and that's what the sound is. So on the schematic, if you want to follow along, we're up here on these plate resistors, these 4. So I'm just going to pop those out and replace them with new ones and hopefully get rid of this sound. Let me put the phone up next to the speaker so you can hear what it sounds like. I apologize for the band practicing in the background, but you get the idea. Cool, so I'll replace those and we'll check back. Okay, so I've got those resistors off and I'm getting ready to put the new ones on. But I thought I would mention a little technique you can use for mounting these resistors. You don't want them flush against the board because they're gonna get really hot. And you can already see that there's some discoloration going on here from those guys. So instead of just having them hang and dangle, which is how the original guys were in there, I'm gonna put a little bit of gasket maker behind it. So that's this stuff. It's high temperature, so it'll be able to handle the heat from the resistors. And it'll set up semi-solid, so it'll be a little squishy, but it should keep everything in place and keep these little resistors from shaking loose or doing anything weird. Don't want to use hot glue here, obviously, because the glue will just melt when those resistors get up to temperature. So there's a little tip for you. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit on the back side of each of these guys so that I can get them off of the board, maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch. And I'll have to apologize for my bass playing. and also the fact that I don't have a passive bass. Only basses I have are all active, so if it sounds all active-y, that's what's going on there. And that's through a like a guitar 12-inch speaker up here, nothing special. So I bet through a bass amp it'll sound, or a bass cabinet, it'll have a lot more low end and sound really amazing. Anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now. Like I said, I'll keep working on the noise floor here to make sure I can see if I can get it any quieter than it currently is, and then we can talk about getting this amp back to you. All right, take care, buddy. All right, so I did replace all of those plate resistors for the output tubes, but unfortunately that didn't solve the problem. So I started unplugging tubes, output tubes, and replacing them. I had a couple of extra 6550s, and it turns out that this brand new tube was noisy. It was making that crazy sound. This is a Sovtek 6550 that I just got in a match set with this other one. They both apparently tested fine, but this one is definitely noisy. So I pulled it out, and then I realized there was some voltage differences going on here. So trying to bias the tubes, I've got one tube that's running much hotter than the rest. And so I just kind of started poking around in here and noticed that a couple of things. Number one, just getting my chopstick. Number one, this solder connection right here is loose for pin 3. So I'm gonna actually go through and touch up all of the solder joints on these sockets just in case anything else happens to be loose. And then I'm gonna try to address why this tube is running hotter than all the rest. All of the voltages are the same across here. So not quite sure what's happening there, but once I retouch up all of these solder connections, we'll check it again. Right, we got some disco drumming downstairs, always fun. So after resoldering, just touching up all these connections on the tube sockets, voltages are much more even across all the tubes, and they did go up a little bit. So that tells me that maybe the connections were not amazing before, and now that they've been heated up again, we've got more voltage flowing through. So all of the bacony, sizzly, growly sound is gone, and all we have left is just a little bit of hum. The amp's on right now. Here you can listen to the hum. And that's coming from these two leads that go to the reverb tank here. So this is the send and return. And when I ground those out with my hand, that hum goes away. So all we're left with is a very slight hissing sound. And I just did a guitar test on this, and it's super loud. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. This is a very low noise floor compared to how loud the output of the amplifier is. So just for fun, now that I've fixed those tube sockets, I'm going to put back in the noisy tube and make sure that it is actually bad before I try to send it back for a refund. Hey Eric, I've got your V4 all put back together and it's ready to hit the stage again. Took me a long time to get it biased. Turned out I had purchased a set of bad tubes. They were just not good right out of the box, which is kind of a drag. It made things take a little longer, but man, it sounds great. It's all fully functioning again. All of the tone knobs and everything work. Reverb works as well. Yeah, so here's a little demo, but I'm sure it'll sound better when you actually play it. This is my Ibanez fully active, crazy sounding bass. So probably when you plug your awesome Fender into it, it'll sound a lot better than this. But